it's Marty from MartyEnglander.com, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing SocialCode's training program. Now, I've already reviewed the graphic design software and the templates in this video right here. But like I said in the last video, I wanted to create a separate video all about the training that, as you can see on my screen right here, all of these right here I've actually watched and I've created notes on every single one. So I'm not going to be going into exact details about what he's saying, but I'm going to give you my overview and my thoughts about each video and to tell you if it is something special or not. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to start reviewing the SocialCode training program, and if you visit the link in my description, it will take you to my blog where you'll have all the information about pricing, as well as all of my bonus content, which you can use the navigation to the right, and you'll see when you purchase SocialCode, you will get all of my bonus stuff, which will actually give you access to a private portal, and you have lifetime access to all the bonuses I create and upload in the future as well. You'll also be notified when I do that every single time, so you never get to miss out. But enough about that. I do go into more information about that in my other video, and you can find that in the link in the description. But let's use my navigation to the right and click on SocialCode training review. So as you can see, every single video that they've got, I've actually created notes here, and again, if you want to read this in your own time, you can do, but let's go ahead and start off with the welcome video, which is this one here. So this is 1 minute and 49 seconds, and all in all, there's not really much to say about it apart from it's brief, and even though it's brief, it's actually straight to the point. So it's like, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about, and you know, thanks for joining. Thanks for purchasing the software, basically. Let's move on to the how to use the editor. Now, if you watched my previous video, my previous review on SocialCode, you'll realize that it's actually unbelievably simple to use. It's not complicated and there's no jargon in it. So again, this is a 6 minute 52 second video on just basically all the ways, different ways to use the editor. They don't go through every single template, but then again, you don't really need to, because once you understand the basics of the editor, then you can do whatever you want. There is no jargon talk, or there's no weird editing gone on where they've jumped over a specific aspect of the software. So there's no iffy behavior at all, and there's nothing indicates to me anyway that the software doesn't work in any particular way. So it's pretty good. And also there's no babbling. There's no babbling when he's actually talking about the software. So it's very nice, and again, straight to the point. And I know I'm probably going to say straight to the point quite a few times. It's only because there's no better way to say it apart from, hey, they got straight to the point. Okay, so next let's move on to about viral content, and this is where all the training actually starts. So this video is about 4 minutes 28 seconds, and if we go to my blog, you can see this covers, you know, all the different types of social media content. You know, so he's mainly going to be covering all of the social media templates that are already in SocialCode, already done for you, that you can design within the software. He also talks about what niches work well with specific content types. What's really nice is he then goes into detail about the psychology of the reasons behind what works and why it works, and this is something that so many people overlook. So it's actually quite refreshing to hear someone speak about that. Now, just before I continue, I do want to say that I am pretty hardwired into all of this sort of information. I do it for a living. I apply it every single day. I earn full-time purely on commission based, so I need to know about this sort of stuff. And you know, there are at some point some things I agree with, other things I don't agree with, and I will say where I don't agree with some of the stuff he says as well, but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means I've got a different experience to how this guy may have done something. So sometimes I like watching all of this training, even if it is really simple in my eyes, because sometimes you never know when that golden nugget is going to appear, something that clicks. So often I will watch like 10 hours worth of content, and it may only be in 1 minute of that 10 hours that I've actually learned something, but that one thing I learn can be the difference between £10,000 a month and nothing a month. So I do, if you are going to buy the course, I do recommend watching it, because it's definitely worth a watch if you're not that experienced. So yeah, he also spoke about something I've not heard many people speak about in a lot of other trainings, which is the intent of a platform. People go to a platform with a different intent, not to be sold to and stuff like that. So he covers that in greater detail, which is very nice to hear. Then he talks about a funnel and how you can move potential customers through it. So basically just warming them up. And then he also talks about the importance of talking to your customers in a very specific way. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail about this because it wouldn't really be fair on the creators of this product, but I'm kind of just giving like an overview, and he can talk about that in more detail. I could spend hours talking about that, but I'm not going to. So next is Facebook marketing. So this one is I've got a lot of experience with Facebook marketing, more specifically on the organic side. How can you not, especially if you're a marketer? Facebook is a absolute beast. So he talks about how to grow on Facebook, the do's and don'ts whilst on Facebook, tips for getting good reach, because we all know Facebook has killed Facebook pages, organic reach, but Facebook groups, well, that's a different story. So he talks about specific types of niches that you want, talks about the value and the community building aspect of Facebook, talks about, if you're not in the game, you're not really going to have any chance of winning. He then talks about the importance of engagement and, of course, recycling content and kind of like how to do that. All pretty basic stuff that if you already have experience on Facebook and you've already done some research into it, you probably would have come across all of this information. But nevertheless, if you're new to this sort of stuff, there could be some gold in there for you. Personally, I've not learned anything new in the Facebook marketing course, but let's move on to Instagram marketing. Now, personally, I've never really enjoyed Instagram marketing. I've never really gotten into it the way a lot of other people have. It's just not my platform of choice, but there are people who make a lot of money off Instagram. So, I am very familiar with a lot of the common practices, and, unfortunately, I don't think there's really any unique information in here. But either way, he talks about, he actually says something very sensible, which is getting rid of the short-term gains mindset, in other words, get rich quick, and focusing on long-term strategies, which again is pretty refreshing hearing, because most people who buy these sorts of courses tend to have the get quick rich scheme, and sometimes you just gotta say, no, that's not what this is about. So it's nice that he's kind of done that. Next, he actually gives step-by-step instructions. Now, one of the things he did say, and this is where I'm going to go into a bit more detail, is he basically talks about hashtags and how you should fill up, your comments or your description with loads and loads of hashtags. But the reality of it is that Instagram understands that people are trying to manipulate the hashtags. So it's in your interest to try and structure your hashtags in the best possible way. And this isn't something that he's covered, which I was quite surprised at. But then again, it's not the most practiced topic. So unless you're really in the know, I imagine, then you're not really going to know about this. And that's basically, you want to be placing your hashtags in a description. So in actual paragraphs, in well-flowing paragraphs and comments and stuff like that. And that way it's going to come a lot more natural, and Instagram isn't going to be like, ooh, iffy sort of thing. Now, one of the main reasons this isn't that well known is because Instagram can't really stop people from spamming or decrease the search volume of posts that actually have loads of hashtags, and that's only because that's kind of like how Instagram ranks things with engagement, so it wouldn't make that much sense, but they can certainly frown upon it, and whenever they frown upon something, you know that they're probably working or trying to work around it, or they're doing something. Okay, so getting the best practices as early as possible is the best way to go. But either way, cool. Then he also does about 15 minutes in a live example, which is quite nice to see, because a lot of it is in fact theory based, and it can be quite tedious, but the videos aren't too long. So let's move on to Pinterest marketing. So Pinterest marketing is actually something that I'm fairly new at, and it's actually, I've just completed a course on Pinterest marketing. I'm not going to say the course or anything like that, because that's not what this video is about. But I did learn quite a lot in it, and I am experimenting with Pinterest. So a lot of the information that he said, I've actually recently learned, so it was quite nice to hear that he was confirming what I've already learned. That it was a little bit boring because it was completely theory based, and I think, let me just double check, the Pinterest course was about 18 minutes long. Yeah, 18 minutes 45 seconds. So to have that completely theory based was quite tedious, but he did say something which was actually, in my opinion, really bad advice out of the 18-minute video. So it was only one thing, which is he's telling people that you should be following 50 to 100 people every 2 hours. No, absolutely not. You're going to get flagged and you're going to get banned. You should be following a maximum of 100 people a day on Pinterest. I mean, just really think about that. If you're following 50 to 100 people a day, let's just go with the extreme and say you're following 100 people every 2 hours, and you do that for, let's just say, 5 times, you're following 500 people a day. That is so unnatural. When was the last time you followed 500 people just for casual browsing and stuff like that? No, definitely not. Don't do that. In 10 days you would have followed like 5,000 people. It's not realistic. You will get flagged, and you may even get a shadow ban potentially. So don't go with that strategy. I'm not saying it's factual, but I'm saying it's pretty damn close. So that's bad advice. I wasn't overly impressed with that bit, but out of the 18 minutes, that's the only negative thing I can actually say about it. Twitter marketing. So Twitter is actually something I'm really familiar with. It was one of the very first social platforms that I started really learning, and I actually really like Twitter. I don't use it as much anymore because there's more profitable platforms to use, which require less work, but Twitter still is a fantastic platform. So he spoke about the importance of good call to actions, about the structuring your profile. He then spoke briefly about replicating success and how you can do that. He also spoke about the importance of a persona, but that should be across the board with all social media platforms. He did say a little bit of a conflicting message. Even though we're talking about Twitter versus all the other platforms, it all basically ties in together, and strategies aren't that wide apart. And he basically said, following and unfollowing is really bad, but yeah, he's basically recommending that on the Instagram course. So bit conflicting, what's going on there, but whatever. The next is, he didn't speak about a software that Twitter actually built, and especially one of the strategies that he mentioned, Twitter built a software called TweetDeck, and the idea of TweetDeck is you can put in streams of streams which are focusing on keywords or search phrases. So you can have 10 streams open focusing on just one individual keyword or search phrase per stream, which means that you will just get loads of tweets from individuals all about that specific topic. So it makes interacting and engaging with people click of the fingers. And TweetDeck's free. They don't charge at all for it. It's a fantastic piece of software, and I was really surprised he didn't even touch on TweetDeck. He might know more about it, and like I said, this is an extremely simplistic course. I'll say probably the majority of information he said you can actually get online. Personally, for me, there's no golden nuggets there at all, but you can actually get the majority of what he's saying online by typing something in like top 10 ways. And then he also didn't mention, which was surprising, list building in Twitter. I'm not talking about email building, I'm actually talking about you in Twitter. You can create lists, make them private or public, however you want, and you can add people to those lists. So that means when you click on the list of people, it will show all the tweets that they're actually posting, which means you can keep on engaging with them every single day. But either way, he didn't mention that, so perhaps Twitter isn't his forte and he's trying to just give you some very basic tips there. But there were two very crucial things that can really streamline your Twitter marketing, which was what I just mentioned. But either way, you know, apart from that, it was still reasonably simplistic, but not bad advice in there. Let's move down to monetize traffic. So really, again, like I said previously, you could just go to Google and type in top 10 ways to monetize online traffic, and that's basically what you got. I really didn't hear or see anything unique at all. Perhaps I'm too hardwired into it, but then again, I've got an idea of what's simple and what's advanced. So yeah, I don't think that was particularly helpful at all. But then again, you might watch it and you may think, oh, I never realized that. Oh, that's cool. And sometimes when you've got someone talking through all these options, it's also very helpful as well. So that is actually the whole course. It wasn't too much or too extreme, but I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've learned anything new from me, if I've said anything or I've helped you. Do I think the course in its own right would be worth buying? No, I don't. However, like I said, if you watch my other review of Social Code when it came to the templates and stuff like that, you know, it's actually pretty good value for money. I actually think this training is more of an introduction to his other courses. But one of the nice things that I did see and I did hear was how simplistic he made everything sound. It definitely could have been broken up a bit with some live examples, especially the Pinterest one. I did find that a bit tedious, only because it was theory and slide after slide. It would have been nice to see some live examples just to break up a little bit. After all, this is a marketing course. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.